Anumre say one my pine washing so. Na fe waboy ho ban finura. Memen day nyina ye ko eba nyina wahwen so saa. Asedan en kamfo ne de ma no. Ye gidie se nyame nam na dom so be hyiran. Ene dwumadi a eye Christ our hope evangelistic campaign. Ye di enyema mienu ene ye di ye adwuma. Ye di kan ni se ye be ma apomudin ho enkransem kakra. Ye nua be ma dru ha me invite no na fe ye ma introduce no. Anu nti anumre ye danyame ase na ye ma akra dodo e wo line so nyina akwaba. Nyame hrewa ni se ade ba ko na misro anumre. Esan se sa asemi e ya asem ehu hia nti. Bomodia na call off the line na invite unipa wadamfo na ka kire ni se omra line yi so na omra metie onyankopon asem. Enu nti sa be ye damwase se motimi abaso na migidi je nyankopon nam na dom so ebehira mo e wo sa campaign mu nti no ye be ma IT4 no amaye edwum baako edwum ni sia ya sori pani John Opon ebe bom paye soronko adidwumadie nyina ahye onyankopon sa enu nti moma enye kom ye ntie sa edwum yi de damwase Acho edo pon ye beko mpaebo mu.
Adam that's it. Mesre na nyamemba mama nyina si etrase. Afi ye mompaye. Yankopon ane erade. Aseda nyina ya wodi anyametwa edi ampon. Nhwe sopa na obambo. A waboyen abesti sabri. Yehoa ayeye nka odin da.
Amen.
Era wase enwumre sronko kwan so. Era sorry sofo ahya wonsa. Era wase ono ne personal ministries for era wase wo won ho. Era wase wo first Ghana dwumadie nyina mo se wo Yehoa. Mama na baso anwumre. Yehoa ayeye nka odin da.
Amen.
Sabra wiase ebo bribribribribi. Na wiase ani bibi papa bia de maye. Na ye de to krata so se. Wo Kristo, won kwa wo mu anani daso wo. Na wo Yehowa, wo na wo dom ane wo homobro so amadwumadie abaso. Yehowa anwumre ayeye nka odin da.
Amen.
Ane na sronko kwan so yesre. Na pe ye de pastor abankwa amwako hene ahya won sasronko kwan so.
Amen.
Yehowa anwumre ka wako aho. Fa ne so na fe ma wiase nyina ne wo man nyina nte se wo mu ana didaso wo. Yehowa yen sama yenda.
Amen.
Mana osra hoɔden na fa honhom hyɛ ne ma.
Amen.
Ade dwumadi ahya wo sɛ yenim sɛ Yehowa yebɛyɛ nhyira. Ɛno nti soronko kwan so yɛda wase wɔ hu ne yɛsrɛ. Na afei yɛde wɔn a ɛto nsa ɛfrɛ asrafoɔ ba yɛ nyinaa hyɛ wo nsa. Yehowa anwummerɛ hyira wɔ nyinaa ma yɛ.
Amen.
Ɛne na soronko kwan so anwummerɛ yɛsrɛ ne yɛde asrafoɔ nyinaa hyɛ wo nsa. Sɛ wo ma ba wo nkyɛn anwummerɛ ɛbɛtie wo hɔ nkwansɛm anidasoɔ nsɛm nanso ɔhaw bi agu yɛn so a anwummerɛ ɔsoafoɔ agya yɛsrɛ wo sua yɛn daa.
Amen.
Mananya na ɛyɛ da soronko nyɛ sɛnkyerɛne ɛma wo mma nyinaa brabo ne titiriw ne asrafoɔ a yɛato yɛn nsa afrɛ wɔn. Yɛde wase so ayɛ ne saa ma yɛn. Yɛde wɔn a kyinkyim fidie nyinaa hyɛ wo nsa. Ɔbonsam mpɛ ne saa se yɛbɛte wo nkwansɛm ɛne deɛ ɛkɔ so wɔ wiase yi mu. Nanso anwummerɛ yɛsrɛ wo sane w'ahoɔden ne wo tumi. Na Yehowa ka wɔn nyinaa ho. Ma mfidie ne nyinaa biribiara nkɔ pɛpɛɛpɛ na ɛnhyɛ wɔ animuonyam. Yɛde wase. Yɛde wasafo ma nyinaa hyɛ wo nsa. Anwummerɛ mi yɛnyɛ nhyira. Sansi yɛbisa ne nyinaa ɛwɔ yɛ hene ɛne agye nkwa Jesus Christ wo din kronkron no mu. Amen.
Amen. Era yɛdase bebree. Yɛdase ɛwɔ mpaeɛ a wabɔ adi ama yɛn. Anuanom, saa bere Christ Our Hope Evangelistic Campaign ɛno a yɛgu so no. Na sɛnea yɛdi ka kaeɛ no, ɛnnɛ yɛtia yɛyie yɛnya yɛn ba baako a ɛyɛ Dr. David Pepra. Dr. David Pepra papa na ɔmaame ɛyɛ Dr. Yakwati Pepra ɛne Dr. Afiache Pepra. Nti Dr. Sinkoa, but Dr. David Pepra na ɛnɛ anwummerɛ yi for the next 30 minutes edi anim yi no obedi anim na wakyerɛkyerɛ yɛn ɛkwan yɛbɛtumi afa so a yɛbɛtumi stay healthy yɛbɛnya apɔmuden. Moma menka Dr. David Pepra ho asɛm kakra. Sɛnea yɛnyina anim no ɔyɛ Bronx native a ɛne hyɛ sɛ yɛwo no Bronx ha yi a ɛna ɔkɔɔ Yale School of Medicine na owieɛ no saa bere onya abodin krataa bi a ɔyɛ National Medical Scholars ɛyɛ 2021. David sɛnea yɛdi kan yɛ bio no ɔsan ɛyɛ Harvard University class 2015. Enti na nadeɛ baako a n'ani gye ho a ɔyɛ passion sɛ ɔbɛyɛ ne sɛ ɔbɛkɔ mmɔnten na waboa nipa a ɛbrɛ ɛwɔ apɔmuden ho. Ɛno nti ɛne yɛto nsa frɛ David no ɛyɛ Dr. David Pepra no wampopo ne ti na ɔyɛ n'adwene sɛ ɛnɛ nwummerɛ no ɔbɛba so na wabɛkyɛ ne suahunu ɛna afei adeɛ a wasua ho ɛfa apɔmuden no ɛde akyerɛ. Enti saa bere David So Mr. Sum na for the next 30 minutes, any enko addition what prepare your mind. Yes, you can hold Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Good evening. Thank you, Elder, for the generous introduction, and thank you to the First Ghana leadership. So now I'm just looking at the time. We have about 20 minutes. I don't want to go over, so I'll make sure to stick to the time. I want to give time for questions, so I'll keep it short and brief. My name is David Pipra. I am not a doctor yet. Just for legal purposes, I become a doctor in May. I'm in my last years of medical school, but I have taken my licensing exams. I will graduate in May. I just want to...
Yeah, we're almost there, sir.
Yeah. I wanted to share with everybody tonight about a couple of things so that you can make great decisions. It's the new normal: boosters, mandates, and safely reopen the church. And so there's a lot of information we're going to talk about. This is new. Some of you have seen my camp meeting presentation, and so this is a continuation of some of that information. You might see some of that information from the camp meeting presentation. And so just to stick to time, I'm going to start my timer. So one question I hear about all the time when I talk to people about vaccination is like, they say, I had COVID. Do I need to get vaccinated? It's actually been found that most Americans have had COVID-19 by now. The COVID-19 is so infectious that most Americans have had COVID. And so many people think, if I had COVID, shouldn't I have immunity? And to some part, that is true. So they ask themselves, do I need to get vaccinated if I've had COVID before because I've gotten immunity the natural way? And so I just want to share this just so everybody understands. Natural immunity is actually probably weaker than vaccine immunity. And so you have natural immunity and then we have vaccine immunity. And then more so, which is new, we have hybrid immunity. And so this is a new concept. So people who have had COVID and then get vaccinated actually have the highest levels of antibodies. What are antibodies? Antibodies are the proteins that are in our blood that allow us to fight infections like viruses and like bacteria. And so if you have prior COVID infection, if you've had COVID before, and then you get vaccinated, you actually have the strongest level of protection. So people who are dealing with the Delta variant, if you had COVID-19 and then you were vaccinated, you are the most protected out of any group. And so what is the takeaway message? Get vaccinated, even if you had COVID-19. And I want to make this clear because I think a lot of information is out there and people feel like the vaccines don't reduce transmissions. That is not true. Vaccines reduce transmissions. What does that mean? If I get COVID-19 and I'm vaccinated, will I be able to pass it on? If I come into contact with somebody with COVID-19 and I'm vaccinated, will I be passing it on? The truth is vaccines reduce transmission, right? Your ability to give COVID to another person. So don't let anybody confuse like that. If you got vaccinated, you're at the same risk as someone who's not vaccinated. That's not true. If you are vaccinated, you have a lower risk of giving COVID to other people. But even the most important thing about getting vaccinated is that you protect yourself. It's almost impossible for you to die if you had been vaccinated from COVID. So that's important to take away. The most important part about this vaccine is almost 100% effective at preventing death. It's almost 100% effective at preventing death from COVID-19. And then also, this is new over the summer, but also wear a mask indoors because the spread is right now so high in the United States because of low vaccination rates that we need to wear a mask. But when more and more and more people get vaccinated and there's more and more immunity through vaccine immunity and natural immunity, there will be a day that we don't have to wear a mask. But for the time being, please wear a mask. And so I just want to talk about little things. And so the CDC released an alarming study over the summer, and then this was on CNN in July, that said that the Delta variant is an aggressive threat and warns the war has changed. And so many people hear the Delta variant on TV and they ask, what is the Delta variant? The Delta variant is basically a mutation, a mutant form, a different form of the virus. And so there's this number that we call the R number. It sounds complicated, but it's very simple. If you had COVID, how many people can you infect on average? So the original COVID strain, the one that came out in December, the one that came in March of 2020, that can infect about 2.5 people, 2 to 2.5 people. But now the Delta variant is so much more infectious. That means the Delta variant spreads faster. It's not more deadly, but it spreads faster. The Delta variant can infect up to 8 people on average. So the Delta variant is so much more aggressive in multiplying itself and being infectious. And so if you talk or if you breathe more, there's more virus in the air. And the actual estimate is it's about 1,000 times more viral load than compared to the original virus. And remember when India was in the news all the time in April and in March, that was because the Delta variant was actually driving that massive spike. And so that was the cause of the India third wave back in April and March 2020. But it's not more deadly. And now it's a dominant strain. In the United States, the Delta variant is about 99% of all cases of COVID-19. And so if you get COVID-19, you likely have the Delta variant. Even though you hear in the news, oh, there's a new variant, there's all these different new variants coming out, it's most likely the Delta variant. So the White House has started to make plans to say, we are gonna provide boosters. And initially the White House said that we're gonna get the boosters on September 20th. So this month. So there should be given boosters about 2 weeks from tomorrow. But recently, on Friday, the White House decided to actually delay that so they have enough time to do the studies to understand if boosters are really gonna be necessary for people. So what are the boosters and why do we need them? People age over 65 are at most at risk for COVID-19. The biggest risk factor, that means the people who have the most risk of dying or being hospitalized, are people who are older than 65 and people who are immunocompromised. What is immunocompromised? People who have cancer and are getting chemotherapy, people who have HIV, people who have a weak immune system, that is immune compromised. But also there's also, to a certain extent, uncontrolled diabetes is an immune compromised state. A lot of people don't know that, but if you have diabetes, it does increase your risk for infections. And so if you are in your 60s and you have diabetes, I think it's important to consider getting a booster dose as soon as you can. And so Pfizer actually reported that the 95% efficacy that they saw in the beginning, when everybody was saying 95%, that the vaccine works at 95%, they found that it actually declines by 6% every 2 months. And so now everybody's like, oh, the vaccine doesn't work, that vaccine doesn't work. The truth is, the antibodies in your blood that the vaccines create actually falls over time. And so they need a booster dose for that. But the good reassuring news is that 6 months, it's still almost 100% effective at preventing severe disease. And I'll show you even more information about that. And scientists believe that vaccines provide immunity for life. So as long as you got your COVID vaccine, you have some level of immunity. The question now is, how long does that last? Because people were asking that in the beginning. How long does the vaccine last? This is what we're seeing right now. We're trying to figure out how long does a vaccine last. And many people don't understand that science is messy, right? You're trying to figure out big decisions with very little time. And so they're trying to figure out what is the appropriate dosing schedule. So how often should we give booster shots to people with COVID-19, to prevent COVID-19? So they need more studies. And that's why the White House decided to push back the date from September 20th to an unknown time. But we think it's going to be in the future. So why are they saying a booster dose is necessary? Well, they've been looking at Israel. Israel is actually giving out booster doses to the people who are age 60 and above. And they found that when they give the booster doses, they actually can protect the people better. If you look at this line, this red line, it shows that the lowest rate of infections happens after a booster dose. And so the booster dose actually prevents you from getting COVID. Remember when people used to say, oh, you don't have to wear a mask because you got vaccinated. Well, they're finding that you can get back to that if you get a booster vaccine. And the booster vaccine prevents you from getting infected and reduces your chances from transmitting the virus. And that's why they're boosting the people who are age 60 and above. And even more so, they actually are boosting the people because people who are very old have a weaker immune system. And so those people are getting hospitalized, and very, very rarely, like maybe a couple of people, like maybe 3 or 4 out of 100,000 are actually dying. And so they're looking at people who are very old. This is and people who are 60 and above, at boosting them. And then they're going to see if that's important for everybody else. People are below 60. And so here is a little bit more information. This is severe cases by age group, right? And so you have to look at your own risk. If you are in your 20s like me, your late 20s like me, there's almost zero risk that you're going to get hospitalized after you've been vaccinated. But if you are 60, you can start to see the graph here. The unvaccinated, where you see my arrow is, they have a pretty high risk of getting hospitalized. And then the vaccinated have a very low risk, but it's still a risk. And then they think that if they can vaccinate those people with a 3rd dose, they can decrease the risk. So what am I saying? When a booster dose comes out and you're 65 and above, or you have medical conditions like being immunocompromised, that's having cancer or something else, consider getting a booster dose. Now, if you're younger, we really don't know right now, but you might have to get a booster dose in the future. That's in question right now, and they're trying to figure that out by doing the studies. And so vaccine mandates. I think this is important because this is going to affect us all. We live in New York City. And so the city now has vaccine mandates and requires proof of vaccination to do indoor activities. And so before they're encouraging people to get the vaccine, now they're coming with the penalties. It's going to be harder to get a job. It's going to be harder to go eat in a restaurant. It's going to be harder to go to the gym. It's going to be harder to do anything indoors, because now that the Pfizer vaccine is legally, fully FDA approved, they can make vaccine mandates and they can make your life much harder. So in New York City, in the middle of August, they started to do the vaccine cards. You guys have been seeing it on signs, you've been seeing it around. They probably have not really enforced it that hard, but beginning September 13th, they are gonna begin to enforce it very hard. So what does that mean? You have to show a proof of vaccination to go to do an indoor activity. So if you want to eat inside a restaurant, you have to show a vaccine card. And you have to show that you got at least 1 dose of a COVID vaccine. There's also the Excelsior Pass. This is an app that you can download on your phone to show that you got vaccinated. But this app only works if you got vaccinated in New York. If you got vaccinated out of New York, you have to actually go to a doctor to submit to the app, so that doctor can actually process that and allow you to get Excelsior Pass. So for people who got vaccinated in New York and are in New York, you have to show some form of vaccination. You can show a photo, you can show the actual card itself, or you can use the Excelsior Pass. This is important. And the reason I'm telling you, because you'll go to the gym and somebody said, "Where is your vaccine card?" And if you don't have a proof of it, you can't enter the gym unless you can show a negative test. And getting a negative test is hard because then you have to get a test at a COVID test and wait a whole day. So this is important to know. Starting September 13th, they're going to start enforcing that you need to show proof of vaccination to get inside any indoor activity. And then finally, I want to talk about reopening the church. First Ghana is not in person right now, but soon it will be. So what can First Ghana do as a church to make sure it's safe inside? The churches should conduct anonymous surveys to see how many people are vaccinated. You don't have to collect their name. You don't have to stigmatize people, but you need to know how many people in the church are vaccinated, because there's a risk to having a lot of unvaccinated people, because you don't want to have a situation where people get COVID-19 in the church because of a service. Get the number of vaccinated people and see if you're near a herd immunity. Do you have 70% in vaccination rate? Do you have 80% vaccination rate? Do you have 90% in vaccination rate? You want to know how many people have it and respect people's privacy. HEPA filters. This is a weird word, but HEPA filters are very good at improving ventilation. At North Bronx, they purchase HEPA filters. And what that does is it sucks the air from the room and runs it through a filter. And the filter traps and kills viruses in the air. So it improves the circulation in the room. It's important to have some kind of filtration system in the church. And now that you have a new church, the HVAC system should be up to code, because you need to have some kind of movement of air to ensure that the air is not having a lot of viral particles in the air. So if they cannot do an HVAC system, a HEPA system could work. And then all church members should be masked until further notice. Right now, there's a CDC guideline to say everybody should be masked, and all church members should be masked because it allows us all to feel as one. We don't stigmatize people who are not vaccinated. So please, when you go to church, please mask up. And so this is what a HEPA filter looks like. This is what the machine does. It sucks the air and it filters the viral particles. And these are some guidelines. You should try to get 70 to 85% vaccination rates. And if you're very concerned, there's also everybody who's very concerned, you can protect yourself more by double masking. You can wear 2 masks on each other, and you can tie the mask like you see on the right hand like that so that you can protect yourself even more. It makes the mask tighter, fit to your face. And recently they found if you really want protection, a surgical mask like this blue one is better than a cloth-based mask. But it's better to have something rather than nothing. And so I'm going to leave it here. I'm running at 15 minutes. I'm going to open it for questions. Where there's no counsel, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Proverbs 11, verses 14. And Hosea 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because you have rejected knowledge. This is the first part of our lectures. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about a whole different topic. We're going to talk about Black men's health. But today, I just wanted to focus on the COVID lectures because you live in New York City, you live in the Bronx, and you're gonna need the vaccine card to continue to do your life. So we have about 2 minutes for questions. I want to respect time, so if there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Wacho so na no si nti so bu question on famra.
David, yeah, that was it. No question. Ivanoni. Question here about the booster dose, no, asem. Say, in fact, me above 65. My vaccine be booster dose ni ba between the time I my vaccine, no, time ben also me here booster dose, no.
That's a great question, and that's what they're trying to figure out. So now it looks between 5 months and 8 months. So if you got vaccinated about 5 months ago, consider getting a booster if you're over 65. And if you got vaccinated about 8 months, consider doing a booster. And that's why they initially said September 20th, because September 20th was 8 months from the first time people got the second dose. So it's 8 months from your second dose is when they think you can get a booster. So between 5 and 8 months. That's a very good question. But they still need to do the studies to see what is the appropriate timing. So that may change. But for right now, it's looking like between 5 and 8 months.
Medasi.
If I try to maybe some question.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you vaccinate you. You have the first and the second doses. Now say, okay, test na a positive. Na and also after that, I just say when you're more immunity and I say then the money is
Perfect. Yes, Auntie, that's right there. You have more immunity because the way the body works, you have memory, and so when you get infections of any kind, your body has immune cells, and so it kills the virus very quickly. But then it starts to use the immune cells like the B cells and the T cells. You may have heard of it. The B cells and the T cells, they have what we call memory cells. And those memory cells stay in your body. They stay in your nose, they stay in your mouth, they stay all over your body. So that anytime you come into contact with COVID-19, they rapidly multiply to trillions, and then they kill the virus. So what happens basically is every time you get exposed to COVID-19 and you're able to clear the infection, that means you get healthy, and you don't have any symptoms anymore, you have stronger immunity. So that's the beauty of the human body. The way God created us, every time you get exposed to a virus that we already cleared, we get stronger against it, as long as you're healthy. Now, if you start to get diabetes, hypertension, and you start to get overweight, and then you start to get a lot of sicknesses, cancer, heart failure, whatever the case is, your body's defenses are weaker. And that's why we need booster doses for people who have weakened defenses. But overall, if you have the 2 doses and you get COVID, and then you beat it again, it's going to be harder for COVID to infect you, because actually your body's actually getting better at beating COVID. And actually the beauty of it, even more so, is that a body creates even newer antibodies to deal with future variants. That's the beauty of it. So your body gets better at defending against future variants of COVID. And this is what they're studying. So bottom line, if you've had COVID before, it's less likely that you'll have COVID in the future. And that's the beauty of the body.
Dr. David, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
All right. So are we going to continue to have this cycle of wearing masks, taking vaccines every year? Or do you think that after some years, we're going to have enough immunity, corporate immunity, to overcome this?
Excellent question. I believe personally, two things. I don't know if COVID will ever go away, at least in our lifetime. Why is that? There's not enough vaccinated people. It's now so infectious with the Delta variants that it's unlikely that we'll get rid of COVID. But we will have immunity to COVID. And so we won't, this whole cycle of, mask wearing, vaccination, mask wearing. As COVID infects more people and as more people get infected, there's going to be and over time, we'll start to see that COVID is not going to be as strong as we think it is.
Okay.
But in states, it could change things, but it's not likely to happen because your body, like I said before, gets better at defending COVID. So in the future, I don't think we'll be always masking. I don't think we'll have to continue to be vaccinated continuously. But it might be like the flu. The flu, we vaccinate. But when the flu first came, a lot of people don't know, in 1920, we had a situation. This is not the first time this country has dealt with social distancing and closing. This is not the first time. In 1918, they had the Spanish flu. They had the same thing, right, with the cycles. And eventually there's enough immunity in the population so that, things got back to normal. So when I say new normal, it seems like the normal for now, but eventually we'll have enough immunity in the population that COVID won't become a public health concern and we don't have to mask. But you see right now, people are in stadiums, people are not masking. Things are getting back to normal.
Better, yes.
The right people, enough immunity. And so I'll leave it at that because I want to have time for the rest of the revival.
Thank you very much.
Yo, I was my friend doctor Naka Krebin in Saka, into brother David Pepra, ye Jiranya Minamu Adawasibe Bre, say Wabe Trechen, Wabe baby, and Yama be any so, or Chenyami Adom Soa, Senior Shay Bono, your best after and inti Yame and more non count if it's a bay and could see or Chenyam, not dumty, amen, the Dasibe Bre. And yanum afe na adru onyankopon asem eso na sa program way Yonkodoradio eso apeke from Canada ton e de ko wiase afo na nyina enu nti nya yesre nyame se onka won ho na boa wo mo boa amadwumadie nyina timi akọ wiase afo na nyina no entimi enru na nhye ne din kronkran no nyam ti sabre no ye be kom na yenya ba Justina ede yen team song na brain se enusia eni a yebeti a yatini two presentation mu no eye osofo abankwa amoako hene megidie se nra yenyina anya akyede soronko e woni nsem odema enum enu nti yesa ka bio ene bomodia na woso edema nkofo frew na fofo Machi Manyankra say Yenya ba Dorasewa ewa. This is the third session. Or Susanna Safo so ewa. Afe Doris Kufuor. Se obi ha wabaswa yensan kan pato testimony. Na say yebe ponwa ebe ma pasasa akode abom paye sonko e dia masa ahoho ni nyina. Enu nti IT4 no ebe mayen yen team song no 290 by Yenya ba Justina o wi a ne ebete no Pastor Abankwa Amwan kwene ebebaso medamase. Amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Sister Yada sese watu
Recording in progress.
Yada unyame asese ne yetimi asan ahyia na yetoa ye dwumadie eso. Ye dwumadie a Awurade de ahye yensa na wotwi se ye ni mfa nhye no enumunyam. Medam penimfo ase wo empaibo ahodo a ye bo ede ema dwumadie na ebi eso meso. Se Awurade apaw me se menye obi a menni dwumadie anim ewo sa na wotwe emu. Meda onyame ase ye. Ma mu nyina akwaba eba Christ our Hope Evangelistic series emu na meda Awurade ase se wanya chefa na watimi aba. Yenua oma ye apomodene kyerɛkyerɛ yɛda wase mede Awurade ɛda wase na mesrɛ Awurade sɛ ɔnkɔso ma onimdeɛ na da bia wode akyerɛkyerɛ yɛn yɛda wase ye papaapa. Yenuanom a yɛto nsa frɛm sɛ anwummerɛ bia momeka yɛn ho na yɛne mo ɛnkyɛ Awurade asɛm. Matenka sɛ ɛnnɛ dodoɔ no aba yɛla yi so Awurade asɛm kokɔm ne sukɔm enti mo agyae deɛ moyɛ bia na mo aba sɛ modɔ Awurade sɛdeɛ Awurade dɔ mo no mo nso mobɛdɔ no akɔsi awieyɛ. Ɛno nti mo aba sɛ mobetie Awurade asɛm n'asɛm a ɛma nkwa n'asɛm a ɛboa de nipa esi yie. Ɛno ɛna mo aba sɛ mobetie. Obi a ɔba baabi a yɛka Awurade asɛm na otie Awurade asɛm no Awurade ehyira no papaapa. Mempaebɔ ne madesradeɛ ne sɛ abra mo aka yɛn ho ne yɛde dwumadi a ɛte sɛ yie Awurade omie ɔsoro mfɛnsɛn na ɔnhwie ne nhyira kɛseɛ ɔmfa emu mo so. Onyame ma na wotwe nyina no yɛdwuma yɛtoɔ de yɛka yɛ ho no sɛ yɛntɛne yɛ eyes upon Jesus yɛnhwɛ Yesu Kristo n'anim pɔtee nneɛma pii gyegye yɛn wɔ asase so nanso sɛ yɛhwɛ Yesu Kristo anim a nhyira kɛseɛ ɛbɛyɛ yɛn dea na meda ase sɛda bi a wopɔnda over saa adwuma yi na wayɛ krado sɛ wobɛtwa w'ani na wɔde ahwɛ Yesu na wonhwɛ enipa onyame ma nipa di nipa hwamɔ na Awurade deɛ oni nipa hwamɔ ɛda ma yɛn so ɛde to n'anim a Awurade oni yɛn hwamɔ ɛnɛ deɛ yɛdwene ho mene wo yɛsusu ho mato den sɛ living without fear sɛ yɛtena aseɛ na yɛma ehu ɛnhyɛ yɛn so yɛtena aseɛ na yɛma ehu ɛnhyɛ yɛn so saa deɛ nɛ me na wɔka ho asɛm yi ɛyɛ adeɛ a ɛho hia me yie paa na menim sɛ wo nso ɛho bɛhia wo ɛsiane sɛ bonsam nneɛma ahodoɔ a wɔma no kɔ so wɔ nipa yɛ asetena mu yɛ adwene mu yɛ akoma mu mmea ahodoɔ a osunsum yɛ ɛkɔ no ɛde nipa pii ɛkɔ sɛyɛ mu na yɛnya nhuni adeɛ a bonsam ɛde abɛsoɛ yɛn kɛseɛ paa ɛyɛ adeɛ a yɛfɛ no sɛ ehu fear ehu nti nipa pii nenam deɛ ti ɛpempem we are trying to find places bi a yɛfin sɛ yɛbɛnya refuge yɛbɛnya ahobambɔ unfortunately pii na baabi a yɛnam no bambɔ ni hɔ nanso sɛ hɔ na yɛde yɛni ɛhwɛ a yɛnam ɛhɔ mekae yɛadwene sɛ yɛpɛ baabi a bambɔ wɔ yɛpɛ baabi akɔ a yɛhu ɛbɛfiri hɔ a ɛyɛ Yesu Kristo nkyɛn ɛno nti na meto nsa afra wo sɛ ɛne me ɛmfa koma ne adwene na yɛmfa nsɛ Awurade asɛm yi so living without fear mamena team a wɔn ɛhwɛ dwumadie so ase ɔpɛni sasu ne ne team ɛne ɔsɔfo sa akɔdeɛ empire a mobɔ de ma me na mobɔ de ma dwumadie yi mobɔ de ma ahɔho a da bia yɛto nsa ɛfrɛ wɔn na mobɔ de ma asafoma me nso me bɔ mpaeɛ de ma mo sɛ Awurade twɛduampɔn sɛ ɔnka yɛn nyinaa yɛn ho abra yɛgu so na yɛka bi kyerɛ foforɔ yi abra Awurade soma yɛn yɛ ɔmmoa yɛn na yɛn brɛ anyɛ kwada bɔfoɔ ne mpanimfoɔ meda mo ase asafoma nyinaa nso meda mo ase ɔpɛ pa a mo anya sɛ mobɛboa ma Awurade adwuma de akɔ so adwuma baako pɛ na Awurade afrɛ yɛn sɛ yɛmɛyɛ wɔ asase so adwuma a ɔde ahyɛ yɛn nsa ɛne sɛ yɛnkɔ wiase nyinaa ɛmfa na nyinaa every corner na yɛmpae mu na yɛnka ne nsɛm fa nkyerɛ foforɔ ɛne gye sɛm ne sɛ Yesu sɛ adwuma no ɔna ɛyɛ ɔnam ne honhom so na ɛyɛ yɛyɛ asomafoɔ nti wɔse sɛ yɛma ne so a ɔbɛtwe akra pii aba ne nkyɛn me mpaebɔ ne made sɛdeɛ ne sɛ Awurade mmoa yɛn na yɛnyɛ sɛmpakafoɔ na yɛmmɛ Awurade din so ɛwɔ yɛn wiase a bɔne afɛ yi yɛn wiase a anigye asa so yi yɛn wiase a ɛkɔ sɛyɛ mu yi yɛn wiase a nipa kɔ bɔne yi onyame mmoa yɛn na yɛnyɛ sɛmpakafoɔ me mpaebɔ ɛno no onyame ma moma yɛ mo mpaeɛ otwaduampɔn yɛda wase onyame kokroko ɔkɛseɛ yɛyɛ wa yɛyɛ kamfo ne yɛhyɛ wade monyam ɛyɛ wɔ na wafrɛ yɛn sɛ nwummerɛ yi yɛmmra w'anim na kasa kyerɛ yɛn yɛhoa medeɛ wayɛ medoro bɛkɛkɛ wo ɛnsɛmpa nyinaa fi wo nkyɛn na ɛba mebɔ mpayɛ srɛ hide me behind the cross oh Lord na kasa fa me mu ɛkyerɛ wo ma na me kɔnkɔn srɛ ma wasɛm mmra with power ma wasɛm mmra ne nkanya akoma ma wasɛm mmra ne nsakyerɛ adwene ma wasɛm mmra yɛho a na nya nufusuo mfama yɛn yɛda wase yɛho awiase kwawieyɛ yɛkɔ dɔse ɛtra wɔ n'ase na sɛ wansɔ yɛn mu a ehu bɛtwe afiri gyidie no ho na me kɔnkɔn yɛsrɛ besɔ yɛn mu yɛda wase sɛ wɔte mpaebɔ o Jesus Christ edin mu amen. Amen. Na mema meda mo ase say yetwa ye dwumadie no so living without fear. Living without fear. Nipa pi eku enti wapaw wonjidie. Na mema anhweya yempa Awurade afrɛ ya. Yɛte Awurade na ase ne ɛkɔntɔ sɛ bɛgye Awurade akyi. Sɛ yɛama yɛmpa ebo mu anya dene. Na yɛngyidie mu anya dene a anhweya ɔbonsam na ɛdɛ no ebetumi aka yɛn. Ɛnɛ sɛ yɛhwɛ yɛwiase a yɛtimu ya. Ɛsom ahodoɔ pii na ɛkɔ soɔ. Na botaeɛ nipa pii ɛde ɛsom ɛne sɛ ɔpɛ bambɔ. Pina, they don't understand what they are doing. Nensu so what we say or pebambo. Pina, they don't know where they are going for that protection. Nensu so what we on say they just walk na ubina bambo. Mekai ibrebi na me walk me baha ebe stray ewa 2013. Me by NASDAQ camp meeting, not that time, me baby. Na me ko far Istanbul. When I me a transit. Me name Bemedi Ekoshia. No so a free Europe. Ye na ye transit or ho. Sabra na me kuta Andrews University Bible ya, Andrews Bible ya, o ma troy. Na me kuta na me biemu. Na awasa me di no hono na ewa. It me imagine say making kan kakra. Na me guso na me kan. Sabra ntie na okuta horn bi. Now, Babin no Busame said, do you believe in Jesus Christ? And I'm saying, yes, I believe in Jesus Christ. I am a Christian. And for them, I am a pastor. Also, okay. Me call Jerusalem. Now, Honya Kutami said me ba and Sencheniasi. Nasa me call na me to play mu. Nasa play no ebenya crashia. Said me bohonwa. Me who Emma me to me a alert. And I'm so, oh, I see. When a man and nipa de war up to near ma a hot war so. I was asking myself and said, what you play no more? Nasa wobo. Now when I let to say, play no aircraft crash here. What can you do this? To me and I even doubted, said, sa no power woman said, a bit to me a man enya sa alert no. Nipa di huwa she nipa akumamuni ya adwenemunti. Ye niema sometimes unthinkable. And ye call ye my ganemua. Na mema niema hodwa ekofo ebi entiase enim empo obi a wonyam betimi amakwan se yemfa ye nan entiatia ne yem simply because say ope bambo. Na mema se obi epa wo Ghana. Now, soft be catch and said, quote now, my miss Sabi, Kokumu Mamia, and Pia or Beko Akoye. People are doing what is unthinkable. They need protection, they need power. Who ashe nipa pi emu. And then they are gonna toda ye. Baby, me ba Hanuman, me call Ghana, na me call camp meeting. From Tafo, na me call Jamasa camp meeting. Me do brono ba kubi wo kumase from Fadi. And me now call. Bema na some okani. Pacho one ye from so far bampano. Be say I was good semenya wo. Or sofo obiti wa breme se. Me nku enu ti me catch no. Na betimi abafade na me now. Na me catch ne say. Em say a wrong number and our friend. Next answer onim na dwuma. Se adema brane dia ene odi ni pakro du hwamo onkumin free ho. Me kan no catch him say stop it. And no cut him phone and no call ye. People are trying to put fear in other people. What ye who raye mu. Na wa catch ye. Na ye dia kire na ye akoye niam hodo obi a enye papa. Na mema we ye niam a jedi for etwa se ye ma ye ni eda ho. Yan bi ohonum pa ye a jedi for nenso so ehu bia ya tine wo fie ensem bia ye kan wo social media enkomo bia ye nuanum bi ne ye adi anti ya ne ye pe bambo forgetting say baby a bambo wo ye rade enchen. Jesus Christ is our hope and no other thing. Not the fuphobia and no other person. Then the powerphobia. Beme ye feno Thomas Henry. Na pina ye be kan say o obi a now Benfo Darwin, now Odina Chipa, now or your biology teacher or a biologist Ankasa, now or Breton, Nemrebi, now or Kwako Chadi, now why you late, Nanibari Hosono, or said there be the time as son. O Sabontia, and who sa cab be or honomon. Those days, no, na cab no, sa Tiasanam, Timua, na one chain, Sadia Medibi up to a ha, Yekuni. Or Pietra Montina, no, who be and what can say, Mr. Cab driver, Gina, not family etinamu. Famitinamu, not top speed, cause speedy pa, and or far no tinemu. And na bear may see so now would dimidika, sa, would dimidika. Now, Drew Kermuno, and a papano Ebusan said, Doctor, Ebusan said, now the patrol wouldn't baby, Yako, wouldn't baby, Yako. Do you know where I want to go? Baby and Pessameko wouldn't ho. No, so there be wouldn't money. Me nim baby a walk name may cause speedy pa. I am going as fast as I can. Me tumrika pa said it met to me. When a mema onim dia walkro. Nanso so yaso ntum de kanti na utimrika. Pina ya namwa. Yanim direction na yako. Nanso so ya gumsa na yakro. Nipa pi sana yewiasi yetie. Nipa pina na mema wonam. Who said, oh, yeah, baby, was it Nemu? Nanso so one nam do ti pem. They don't know where they are going. Nanso ogum, son and nipapi, yet our assassin so. When a member yet nim set ye yamwa. Nanso, we don't know the right place to go for that emwa. And tea yet ye pem, dear nipa da catrebia, na ye jetri, not ye call, near this na ye call. And then it is some cancer. Abrabonia contour. Ye we are see a contour. Abrabok is a summer contour. Yet we life without Jesus Christ. An endless journey. A contour. And fasobia and maso. Ye dear tip the pem. No, the member. Ye and fan for sopa pebia and bray. Jesus Christ is our hope. Yes, to Christ or not near any that's all. And ye nipa, and your man penning for, and not him for. When a member, and you will be a one side according 1 hour order for, be a na and that's so free. A yes to Christo unquan. And I know yes to Christo. Asemu or my Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 23. Now, oh Lord, that a man I know now, oh Lord, that a man's life is not his own. Oh, a radime hunu. Na minim said nipa ye yankasa ya proper yankwa ya nipa say ya diaw. It is for the man to direct. It is not for man to direct his steps. And nipa and it me direct ya namo na ye wurade na wo ye. Say radi ni mu a ye nam ne atamnemu. Say radi ni mu a ye ne nam kwa. E radi ni mu a onyama ensi ye. Say radi wo mu a or ye ni da so kese. Isaiah 41 verse 10 catch and said, so do not fear. And when so na meka wo ho mama wakoma enti na me ye onyankopon share me shouting I am a boa o me de me sanifa me tene nifa me de be kura wo mu awurade asemi we ya bosha owo e de ma ye nipa enyina eno nti mesre se to obi nyansa omusawurade. So obi yamwa omuserade. So obi yaria omuserade. So obi rapo omuserade. So obi nda so nyina sa omuserade. Eye rade nkuto. Nenye baby fufuru bia. And I know John can ho asem. John chapter 10, 28 to say, I give them eternal life. Yes, me, na me ma won down kwa, and they will not perish. Me, yes, dear, said ni papa me nchenya, me ma no down kwa, na on side that, na she, said me, ni panaba me nchenya, no one, obi biara, and to me nchimsa ni pakrono, and free samuda. Una men nchen bambo wo ho, say ban nchenya, esi ye. When you remember, bonsam nim dear radi to me, yo, or nim dear radi to me, yeah. Now, nim dear radi, yeah, I want the man who assassin so a free bra bonsam, Adam, and Hawa. Now, for ye not say, why, Jim, anyway, assassin so, or my year home taught that. Where you one of the reasons why I want Jesus Christ to come. Sebe ya obon sam ne de eto ebitwa. Enya afiem nkwa no da de nipa. Na mountain so nkwa no da de nipa. And sometimes in the house of the Lord, obon sam da de nipa ewo ho. Mr. Radio, oh Lord, come. Obon sam ne de eto ntwa. Bon sam aya hayen papa or hayen. When him send bread, ayetia, and want to energy say, or be obia, or the nada, what yes is here, and the idea counterfeiting. A baba, when I mean, my dear Radi A. Shirano, bon some energy say, or the atrobe daddy nipa, no but chinipa coma abedinity. Now, they are, nay, and to me, society, not a dear cock musumo. Bon some air juma. Or yet Juma won nipa piece, so no one nipa so a year Juma. One of nipa so did to me, dear Hodwa, to me, Hodwa, and fair Radia Juma, the nipa jedi, the dear air course say yemo. Miss Sarah Radis won't hear mobo, no mere yenny. Nay, wobble some there, ye were rather no cray, near Radiati, nay, problem some. And the nipper rebel or honor. The memma and Nema who do be near dear what to swore, and only I met who be a crying. Now, when our brand said, dear Cassa was made them penning for can be a giddy, and Nema Hodwa yak can be a giddy, Major Samaidi, Major Wady, Major Mortiadi, Major Wady, Major Bayedi, Major Wady, so on now Fintia, oh, Nayas, I will be where who was saying, Nipa Genema P. Edi, I bet me a genius medi. Then so near my gidino, and shall a bit ye become sumo. Namema. President ya na odi kai wo America hanamo na ye fe no say or ye George Washington ebrebi na oyare in the 18th century no na oyare sabra no na mef ba ko ho ne say obi yare a say ne ko beto no a chen say ya twini moja na afini mu ansana ne ho atumi ato no ento oyare ye na a doctor for ba ne nchen ye twe ni moja na me ma twini moja ebe latest be mienu etwen ansana na nso anya nkwa ansana wo nipa wo mefa hodo a ye de ho etoso nipa wo nyama hodo a ye gidie na nso na nyina ena ye no kra eboa ye especially ye gidifo yi na nyina na eboa ye de ho toso a ebetumi aboa Unamema and me come for Radia Mouset. A Radia some ye more powerful as the myth of who will be ye catch ye. Nadia Hutra Radia some swa, Hamodia be and Honomoa Ebeba. Myth out of rebel Honomoa, Nipadia, what to so, Hamodia Abba, Nanso Radia some Yadia Hotoswa, Hamodia be and Wabeba. And I'm a coveted by ye near or myth bebrebe. Myth bebrebe, Nipad or Hotoso, na kunkum nipa. Na me ma bemebi ono na obi a na wo ye criminal okodi bone a odi ye no na twa se ye punish no na kura wo motimo no se obi di bone sa na ne ko ne ho na wo ne a punish no okoye no hene se wo punishment ni no e na wo de ema no eno nti on choose ba ko punishment e di kan ne se ahoma e wo hwai ye de sha konfo enti ida se oni ti ba hye sa ahoma no mu na ya hye na konfo ya twemu punishment edi kai no ana say sa door ye wo koyi obekọ sa door no echi behind the door be ma no say ono de opese odine ti ko hye sa akoma mu na ye twemu na owu adentia eno na wo hunu onyame ma o how ye won say people are afraid of the unknown enyama ye nim no eno ya de ayesuru be ma no bra odine ti ko hye akoma mu na fe emia no ana oso na me pa acho me se me bu so asamba ko me se wa aboa me ni ti aba shade nanso what is behind the door o yen ka che na say there what behind the door e freedom se ubie sa door no na ubia je o me ye kwanya be fa so a obekọ e freedom e na o ho nanso so san say enipa yet afraid of the unknown ti o to su say obehye no akonfo. Mema yembrebe onomo sa enete we are afraid of the unknown and unti ye di atro adi for p echi ye di atro enchechre p echi ye di powers ahodo bia enfre brade echi adentia ya bi ense bibidi animu eba ahweya o de be komsuo mu ahweya obi beye ye fie ni beye bi bonsam bi be fa kwan bi so na wa ye we are afraid of the unknown. Unfortunately nyame animu yɛde ahoba to no so no yɛmfia ho ntu nyame so yɛde yɛn ho ato nipa so na no Yesu Kristo ka ho asɛm wɔ na wonim sɛ ne kwachi enima besisi ewo som emu especially nipa ofra ho sɛ wɔyɛ agidifo na wonim sɛ enima besisi ti Yesu Kristo Matthew 24 verse 24 Yesu Kristo ɔwɔ ne wɔn na ɔka sɛ wɔn hwɛ wɔn ho yie wɔ atro adifo ensɛm nipa bi ɔpa wɔde Yesu Kristo edin bɛba sɛ wɔyɛ Yesu bɛyɛ nsɛnkyerɛnne na wadaadaa nkurɔfoɔ wɔn hwɛ yie wɔn ho empo the very elect one power what do you say ojina hono and no Paul say the any say ojina hono ya won hwe you na wan hwiase ye be hono mu a ye gina ho na enso e kuba ya kwa mu a oh ne nam ne de ati pempem ne e frefie mo nya we ma ye mo nko ha ma ye mo be power we ma ye onya me ma de ye ne say ojina hono won hwe yie na wan hwiase atro atifo adoso Pina or that die nipa de nipa e musumu. Remember, none of Paul can was for I know this that after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you. Meaning some mekwachi, moi jidifoi, meaning sobon sam, or bet two more sosa. Meaning said, pataku, bamumu, not obey any set, or bet pass over bomb na ama flock no, radim pu emma. And here na mwaka or waye for also among yourselves. Men will rise up, speaking perverse things. Then mumu so meaning say nipa biba sorry or beki kamusu sam ni nyoma hudobia emfa kwemu na po ekasa after nipa or beba in the name of Christianity. When a member and ne a conformina. And never shrines no or close or Paul said, so what the name some at Batawa ho at Katawa Nimua or Benya Quine now I Juma I the bia ye frahose a year ready if ye now a coso pa when I member and ne a conforpi to me a hoodwopi a coso was saw them one in February and I know yes Christ will know him now on the Munti was in the church yan tati at home and share a sunset and yanina any free a radi now I know boy radi now Clem said or dear radi to me at in a juma now and a dear radi to me and a juma pina what the powers ya a free mia hot drop on some powers and a dear juma maya ni ana hono mo and ya na ye nso na ye kɔ sabusu mu ɛhe ne di eti akɔhyɛ ye nuanu bi di on ta kɔhyɛ ba bi a wɔtwea entwen ye nim sɛ Ghana ye wɔ saa mia bi hono mo a sɛ wo anhwɛ ye na ɔkɔsɔhwɛ ba ko a wo anhwɛ na waka ho na anya ye anya radiaka sɛ Amos 3 verse 7 surely the Lord God will do nothing and radi na bibi chance wɔ yinim itimu po adi check na difo erade ye nima woye nsenchenie erade fra nipa so ekasa wonam na safo so o etwe nipa ba ne nchen an ewo ho nanso ya ye nhwe ba bia ya akoma edi ba bia ya akoma ekoro ye nhwe didi a ya ye wo mu mema enne atro diefo enne atro ntrɛtrɛ atro som ekoso bebrebe and now you social media and now you prove say nipa pi me manyama podwa e koso and senchenie by their fruits we shall know them say you hwe ba you hu say umfrewrade unfortunately nipa eda so edu achi atemu a wo mu edi ekwan ofaso me mema wo huso ekwan ofaso ye wo niema efa ni nyina achi nipa nyefra bonsam ablind nipa na yedi wo achi ye call say him and so pina they are not willing to return. Now no Paul can answer 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 14 and no wonder I know one upon some ankasa for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light upon some what me done who said I am before na san oye nipa pina ye hu wana na edu achi ya hwe on se oye nyankopon krofo nenso bonsam senka oba ne sabonsam wa enka nipa enye no enti wa sheda wa transform itself enna nipa edi wa achi a ekọ seyem onyame hu ye mobo nyame hu ye mobo obonsam why the master deceiver bible ma yati ase why a liar and the father of all liars why obia why your trofo na trofo na one edger and obonsam yes say ono de obai obahwehwe na wage de wayira na so obonsam de obai obekum na wasei de ntia obai eno no obonsam empe ye na bra yesu ma ye pese ye humbeto ye and it is say oh Christ is our hope yes Christ o ye need aso ye de ahoto no so a o ebesi ye there bon some ye be say Revelation chapter 16 verse 14 for they are the spirits of devils working miracles and sanctionye pi ne nipa ye nyamema en nipa pensanctionye esna awurade asem nipa kuma di baby ansanctionye wo echisre awurade asem Brian nim where the power is coming from. So that nim said, Debbie, this is not coming from Jesus Christ. Then so nipa senchenie immediately. When I remember and then me come for radia mouse. Wanunkuto near dear Hotuno swap, a beboy. And Revelation chapter 12, verse 9 said, so the great dragon was cast out upon some or Chiasiano or Torochne, if you so, a bassa so that serpent of old. Well, what a dano, sir, boy upon some and no or no a Tonish or so, a bassa so, none a botayane said, obey deceive enipa. Or the ever cause say him. Or the ever corner them. Now I may ask pet ye, or ya sassy so, now ye juma, or nena bofwa, ne can ho. They're in different forms, and they work in different form with different strategies, and or the juma, all with the aim say, or bet nipa at the warm abanin chain, na onu na aqua say him. When a member or on some or say, or that die, or say and so. Mumayan tree and from some. The other boy and pa. Then walk on some near there. Net cheer, what every Tumia Hodwa, and Ferrade, Didia Hodwa, and Ferrade, Tumia Hodwa, and Ferrade, and it said, and rather say, oh, sanctify them by your truth, your word is truth. And rather for us some to now was some. No crack. Bia ya chrono, yanka sub radia sem or hana, the radia sem or ya can honor, or a radia sem so, and a nipa bostrimo, and the bebrebe on one nipan can radiasem, yanka boniasem, yanka and such a wasem, yet wasam on qua, miracles and wasam on qua, power wasam on qua, and on qua, yaka, send nipa pro, and nipa benante, acquire angelsful, and no emfaho, a radia say, ya, you. Na yarisha bia radiasem ye kanu krim e wono e ho e na yenko e ade a ehu hia e kwa be na so radi ne nasem. Isaiah chapter 8 verse 20 said, to the law and to the testimony, if they do not speak according to this word, and radiasem no say one can said the radiasem etie, one can said the radianemra etie, said the radina shedia etia, nature say, oh, there is no light in them. Not just say, Hibia anyone more. Unyame ba wutie me. Ya yen show. Bia ene namno. Erade mra ye de adwuma. Erade adanse ye de adwuma. Erade asem ye ka no ho. Ye de adwuma. Sente sa dia. Not just say e de e course say ye mu. Many just say ye wo Jesus Christ o ka ye ho no obo ye ho ban. Nani dimunti eni kwase di eti pempem ye mehu bia kutaye na nunti ye kodi atron cheche echi ye wa radia wa ye nsanchemye nyankopon say ye ba ne nchen a wa ye krabo empo ye nyamma ye no Jesus say Luke chapter 19 verse 10 for the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost oni paba no waba ono na ehwehwe wanam na sam so hwehwe ye wanam na sam so twe ba ne nchen o now Revelation chapter 3 verse 20 was imagine wakoma pon achi me boom. So be me. Oh no ma kwanya. And come bemu ma be shemu. Na mini na tonsa edidi. O nya me radia na namo. And o hey. O na koma ya ankanachi. I won noke. Se be biemu anko baba. O na koma eye an echi. Say kebe bia anko baba. Oh ye na koma eye cheat echi. Oh say kebe biemu anko baba betra yemu. Nanka oni ya tonsa edidi. And our lives will never be the same. Jesus Christ is our hope. Yeni da so ene Yesu Kristo. Now Isaiah can Isaiah chapter 45 verse 22 was to look to me and be saved. I rather say shame na so shame na when you see me nkwa so oh it will be like Zacchaeus okosha Yesu Kristo. I was a chibia na se no oh they told Yesu ni no it was like a magnet at Zacchaeus na can say oh I rather me na monkonto mposumpo na majo bibia pa hom prena de ma se ye ni to Kristo Yesu animu or say benya nkwa. Look to me and be saved. Yen hwe rade na ye benya nkwa. All you earth on the end of the earth. Ye what sase so nyina. Adentia was say son say I am God. Me ye rade na obi bia ni ho no a o te se me machi obi ne ho. Me nim so obi eni ho. Una mema eneme kan fa rade e de ma say yam fe rade se yade nyina yam suma rade osuma eye papa ya ne rade nante na ebesi ye asuma fo nwuma no kan ho asem wo na Paul kan ho asem say nor is there salvation in any other. When me ma enkwagye enfini pa bi mu na roko senkrofo pi ye promotion kase come to me for power, come to me for protection, come to me when me ma enkwagye to me and through obiamu. If there is salvation there's no salvation in any other. For there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. Nipa bia ni honwa o wasa siswa edi bia ni kwa e wasa siswa e mu na nipa nkwaje e wo dabi na emum e Jesus Christ e ono nkwa me kan fo no ma say ono nkuto na betumi aboye na yehu afri hono ena me shawo den se mo maye ni kuachi na ye maya kuma nkodi de som basa echi esoma emfra brade ye nkodi de echi na de nipa ebekọ seye mu ene niema ekoso ye wiase mu kase pa ena me shawo nkran se ya be ma bia ye fe ni Jesus Christ na sa Yesu odododo na wodome waye krado sese ba ne nchen a obegye sa Yesu yi o abrabo konkron obebo ye na bone ni fi ne nkekaye bia eni ho na ye me no mi enu ntia for you and for I ye me enu nti na Yesu Kristo oba sase so na ye onyame prekope na enso munu sa tibia me no mi enu nko ayenti wo ye na dwen se obeba sase so na wafa kwa tibia ato ne so o pilot ya hu se wo ye onyame na wo ye na dwen se oba protect on any position. Na Yesu Kristo epnen so just because of us. Yentia. Oh, yenti Jesus Christ had to suffer in the hands of the Roman soldiers. Roman soldier fui. Yenti nature say Yesu Kristo. Oh, makwain na wo bre a jim pre or dia mania okoshia ye. Na me mamba say atwe adwene na yedi sisa soldier fui nsem wa Yesu Kristo okodi demwa etise ye. In the hands of the soldiers. Bible catch and say, Yesu Kristo, warm soldier for no, they scorched him. Scorching no, say yantia say ya, who are mania Yesu Kristo famu, and my never young to me for ya want to know so a ye, yet ya no keke, but yes, ya did it for ya Kristo for, nan so na me man ya, oh na ya come dada ye. Sas scorching no. Na ye punishment ya na ye dema ubia or ye criminal ubia ye bunu se or ye condemn na the yen say ni pano what the boy ni no o di ni no ye pene kununti the yen say it is a hanmo first no be ya boni and not to be a let chairs be so na ya na just enka as a form of say ye kunweni je ma sa victim no wo ye ne say ye yini hunyina na yamano de ne ho afam edua na sa dua no yakyekyere ne nsa na yakyekyere ne nan sebaya na chinum betwe na eho ada ho na enum na yahyase na yetwa nipa kro no empre ne nan ne nsa yakyekyere na yetwa nipa kro empre onyamema dia odi twa ne mpre no ne fene se flagellum no onyamema se sa scorpion ya eno ye hune ye sano na efre bi se koboko na leta fo no nko agege no na omdi ba Ghana eno kra na light ketwa bi we di ba ko a osade friend say the cat of 9 tails sa flagellum yi nyemema eno te say dey na daje ewa no na ne botai ne say ebo nipa sa oto ba ko na ebo nipa e wo say ebia honum bebrebe na ebia ho nso a etwa say tu nipa no ne redie ne honam no ebie na ye hu say nipa no sa punishment no akọ ne redie mu sa punishment we na yedima Yesu pina sa punishment mu na wowu ewo mu na wowu ebimpo na wo chanye yiye na ekobo wani ema wani mpo etimi etu pina 1 minimum na wote se sa aba no anase sa flagellum no na eka won wedie wontini ene wa amene na wote nkapa sa tibia yi na yedi Yesu Kristo ekomu pio hono mo a yedom go through that process no a womu before senka yebeto so edoma go through the other process sa ohawi sa etimodini yi enna sa Roman sodafo yi wonte ya gyenkwa no efa so Yesu Kristo pneso nenka oyonyame obetimi agye no ho nanso opneso sa obekọ sa tibia ite seyemu adentia he did it because he loved you onyame wodo na onyame odome odo a wo yi na die wo ho ekyeye no odo a eso sayenti onyame ba no bepneso no akotebia etesemu sebeya yemkwagye ebedimuntia onyame ma Jesus Christ is our hope Yesu Kristo ono ene yani da so ya na repo se ye frɛ ho agidifo ye de abe fam Yesu nanso so Yesu Kristo na ho brase Yesu Kristo osuma o hwe fi nchen everybody ofanwa they worship God just with their lips what wa no keke and a smell de nanso so akoma de enka ho bi o na no ye hia ni pa bi sa na mo hia dem na Yesu Kristo ko hu won se I was from so we agidifo na say na wo mu edi agro na wonim de wo ye wo de Yesu Kristo edi agro na Yesu Kristo ne bufu yi na wo twea ba we remember na say Yesu Kristo obowra wo fie obowra wo sredem so obowra wo sumu a obowra se wo di agro 1 minute when you serious and now say wa koma ye nada koma ano keke now this smell radiana they were playing games in the name of Jesus yempio honwa sana ya na ye nanso Ewurade wo doye oh Ewurade na nikuye ho so how tibia or family was catchens by his stripes we are healed we receive our healing I was sending gwase woyi abaya de bro no sa kutwa ofemu sa ni pedua tetiye moja efrimu baye no Jesus said and for healing timo ma kwan e ma no baye onyamema Jesus said he was wounded for our transgressions ya boni ye muyuntia enna Yesu Kristo okwa mane etesemu na ya sundue eho dadwene dano sunti oh Yesu Kristo pese ehufi ya kwamunti na dia hotu no sunti Yesu ma kwan se ye ntwanetri impre sebeya ye benya ya yaresa na ye mfa yeti empem na memma me kaya adwene se Ewurade se for I know the thoughts that I think towards you. Minimum adwene me dwe fawo ho enye musu adwene o enye basabasa adwene na mom adwene me dwe fawo ne se mema wa wiye papa na mesa ama wo edida so kese. Isaiah 41 verse 10 ka chen say so do not fear when Odakasia, yes, why in a di actually. Oh, wa, and Mguasewa, or Bewud Maya enti. Oh, yes, Christo, sorry, or sorry, and Quatia, I want in some to me, I want in 70, or Semenstro. Do not fear, for I am with you. Miniamesre, so be can send be ya dada me what also. Now do tip him ya pebe ako jim wa infradia. And there is a control say, Shana men so, me whom pursue, and ya papa, so radina say, na radia say, I am with you, me cow, Mamma Bamumu, and my buntu, na me your nan coupon, me shouting, I am a wow, me dima bassa, metin yabassa. Me the so mo rather semen can we enter and now David is sick say na me no oh say na me imagine say na me nam me dey ready what me here now David is say oh na me sa na me oh me dem hoto no so na me bompaye I prayed to the Lord and he answered me. He freed me from all forms of fears. Erade me ho to no so me bom paye no o mahu nyina fi makwam onyema said ya to erade so we will live without fear. Said ya to erade so ne erade nantia we will live without fear. And I may come for erade amount may come for Jesus Christ amount or by so by hwe de wayira na wachi no why ever ready so I extending a hand na watonsa afro se be chedia or ne be ba ne nchen a why kra so be gie na obe ma ya asumdie ya dwemu ya kumbe toye na ya dwene hwe ekaya ho se Jesus Christ ekaya ho a wo ye nsuo na de bumbo ye nsuo obonsam nhyehyeye o kaya ho wo ye bambo for and me come for Jesus Christ at the mouth. The chef family word nyina put him first, put him best and last in everything that you do. Now obetna se ehu enkra o yo nyame odwen ne ma ho o yo nyame waye krado so begie enne se wo la yiso na otimene na se wo do be mawrade wo do na be hye Yesu Kristo ni tumi ase na nya tumi fofo bia enne me tonsa fro se enne me nkamom na yamom paye na na awrade ase na afia ho hye nsa o yo nyame ba tampa odwen ne ma ho ene ku ne ma ho so trase na yamom paye baby I will be I invite you to pray with me. Ye nyankopon yeda wase enne wo ka kire yense enipa de ti pempem ne toda ye ho abia ye ne nam no enye papa ni na ne se yesuro bonsam ne nyama hodo a wo ye na bonsam ne kra de wa bo nipa hodo bi pa ema wo de wo wasefrade Yesu Kristo wo de wo di ye nyama hodo bi a ye nya kata ye di akire onyame yesre wo ye mobo na yentimi ni wachinko sewiye bie ye ni amfia ho nto so jefro bonsam ne na de ahodo nyina mu na me konkrom sre o me ba la yiso asaf man ya hoho ye nyina ye o ma odoye o pe ya asem o pe ya die o mbese be seye o ye ho yesre twe famo ho na ye nsa wo subayo ye da wase eku biara yenim senye ne honam ne moja na anya ya akode ye ho a ya mpayabo wo na wo ye kon ma ye nti eto de aginya o erade ye sem ye hwe wanim potin ne hu mfiri ho ne anya de gye wo mu se wo be ye e de amaye ebresem asdan kan be hra ye nyina o Yesu Kristo din mu amen.
Amen.
Meda wase obaye ne wabetie erade asem me serade so mana asemi enyi nsotene na enante ewo yemu o kira na me makwanya me sa tonsa efro bra na me tie erade asem o kira de adwen ho ede keke o ede ye hwede erade ya maye ne de oguso oye maye na mato o kira de badwen ho no mato din se but God you love it. You'll be happy. So be ready na say no be tie de erade oye but God the tons afro ochna na me de cheya ya sadaje na be tie erade asem na your life will never be the same. Erade show na until on count on show so anadwi bra wo masem boni biara o Yesu Kristo din amen.
Amen. So for abankwa amakohe yegyina nyame eso adawo ase ewo nsem a odi amayen megidi ese nyame nam na dom so beka ye ho na ye di nsem yi ayadwuma na afa yetimi akoakoye ni bra ye nsuro Adolfonum yɛbɛbɔ mpaeɛ soronko sɛ ɛnɛ obi online so chat no ano ma wonsa so wɔ so ma wonsa so sɛ wɔ chat wɔ Zoom mu a ma wonsa so na nyɛ saa de a yɛwɔ Mami Dora Sewa yɛwɔ Susanna ɛwɔ ha yɛwɔ Doris Kufuo ɛna yɛsɛnya Solomon Safo ɛwɔ ha saa asrafo yi ni din a yɛnsa ka bigidie sɛ dodoɔ na so aba a yɛnte wɔn ka nti ni so obi ɔde ne baayɛ no bɔmɔde ande frɛ na yɛntimi enya na yɛmfa din ne masɔfo no ntimi mmɔ mpaeɛ soronko ɛmfa ma anuanom yɛda nyame ase na megidie sɛ hon kronkron no bɛboa yɛn na nsɛm a yɛate na nwumre no atimi atra yɛn mu ɔkyerɛ sɛ ne sɔfo ka nyame adom a 7:30 pɛpɛɛpɛ yɛbɛsan aba bɛhyia mu ɛwɔ ha nyankopɔn ɛnom nhyira mo na ɔnka mo ho ɛwɔ saa bere mu de kosi sɛ wobɛtwe ne mpire no so saa bere yi yɛbɛbɔ mmɔden na afei yama pastor abɔ mpaeɛ soronko ɛde ama saa asraafoɔ yi Mami Dora Sewa Susanna Safo Doris Kufuo ɛna Solomon Safo wobɛka so mu nyinaa yɛ abusua nti no sɔfo mesrɛw bɔ mpaeɛ ɛma saa anuanom yi na afei nyame dom yɛmfa dwumadie no ɛnkɔ na wie
mama yɛ mpaeɛ nyame a wotumi adeɛ nyinaa yɛda wase bebree ohwɛ sopa no bambɔ na ama na nwumre nso dwumadie soronko sɛ yɛaba so yɛda wase nsɛm a wonam wakoa so ɛde ama yɛn sɛ we should not live with fear we can live without fear only as we trust and depend upon you. Nti yɛda wase bebree. Wafa kwan bebree so ama yɛhu sɛ you care for us. And that nea ɛden pa ɛyɛ bɔne ho asotwe no watua ɛho ka ama yɛn.
Amen.
Nti anwumre yi yɛde yɛn ho ɛto nea wayɛ de ama yɛn so. Ne aka sɛ kɔso a ho yɛ mmɔbɔ no ka yɛn ho. Yɛde asrafo a yɛto nsa frɛ wɔn sɛ wɔn metie wo sampa yi na wɔn gye so wrɛkyɛ. Eba ye ebetie nyinaa nwumre de nyinaa ba wanim bio.
Amen.
Esre won nsɛm adom nsɛm enhyira ohwɛ so pa no obambɔ de amasa asrafo nyinara. Ona opanyin sasu bubo no din ni omo ɛwɔ so a ya mo mu din na nso omo wɔ so din omo etie Yonkodoradio. Ona wono etie bia YouTube na Facebook ene medium bia asrafo ɛwɔ afidie so etie won sempe yesre wadom wahumabro ne onhyira de amom da na otwi ene anwumre bia womo eba no ma enye ensankyerene enye nkobi womo ni woni hyiemu na wona brabɔ nsesa haw ne dadwene ne problem bi da wono so a awurade hye wom ya ebi ni peduem a wo yaresafo
amen
challenge bi go through bibia da ne bepɔ nanimu a awurade dwene ni nyinaa tu ma wono yada wase yenwie na adofo ebaye ne yen ye WhatsApp yi mu ayeti wasem ne edi adanse ese eja woni yen edi ni yi ye mra dwumadie koso ye koso de wako ahye nsa esre na wo nsa so no mu do sa to no so honhom ahye ne ma waso ne ne pedue nyina ma no homa sembi one ne yire ne ma na busue nyina ene adofo ewo Andrews Michigan nyina wabɔ no ban na wako anya sumdwe ne apomden ene tumi fresoro e de ato aso akansempai kwesi yewie nso a obi biara wasiese no so beso de no homa na obasu na ne din ekɔ nkwanhuma no ye kwansidie nyina afiri hɔ na onye ona adwene yi yewie na de no homa wa enyina ya ka bomu abosu ahye odi anunyam ma openye hɔ na otwi ne na wase ye hye wanunyam anadwi ne ekɔ bia fa yekɔ bebi onwe wodwumam ye wofie ye bededa ma de pachi bebi ayi obia ma wonhyira no untaban no nkata yɛn so ade pachi da wase nim sɛ watie yɛn da esi ebusa wɔ Yesu din ho amen
amen so for yɛ da se bebre anuanom aha ane yɛde yɛ dwumadin no
recording stopped
de ɔdae kosia ni pitri megidi yɛ nyame dem enam na dom so ɛbɛka ɔkra biara ho a ɔba yɛ betie onyame asɛm ɛno nti yɛbɛka mispa see identity Yehoah
me no ntem
amen IT phone so ye damase bebre opani Alex Okokwa Dimai ene ne nkrofo na boafo Saa bɛn mu ba yɛ nnwom baako na yɛde atu apɔ. Nyame nhyira mu daa. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Otujini amini eni dasu. Otujini amini eni dasu. Enede na matise Yesu risin. Enede na matise Yesu risin. Enti mako fienu. Na mehu majikwa Yesu. Mako fienu. Na mehu majikwa. Mako fienu. Majikwa Yesu, mekoma korenu, na mehu majikwa. Enti mikori Yesu ti mafudia. 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 Oh, Mary, maybe the Zacchaeus. Oh, Jesus, yes, riba. Oh, morning, say no no. What tinta say wo no. Neso oh ye ni betienti we no. No go bedie food. Oh, Mary, Zacchaeus, me go Yesu ti mafudia. 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 Me go Yesu Yesu tudia nasi. O manene soja soro. O kase zakyo sifo. Ende ufina. O beri Zacchaeus. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Zakyo sani sifo. O kakre Yesu te. Miye tutu ini abibapo. Semeni kontumpa jobinadi. Miko humprena. Obey Zacchaeus. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu pasa siso. Obede de boyefu. Aprofwe widi fwe pubofu. Enti brada obede. Obey Zacchaeus. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu ti mafudia. Mikori Yesu Miami.